There's a photo on our living room wall, taken 7 years ago at Rehoboth Beach. I'm holding Sharon on my back, and we're both mid-laugh. Her hair's a mess, she's got sunscreen smudged on her nose, and I'm still wearing my glasses like a dork because I forgot my contacts. Every time someone walks in, they compliment that picture. "You two look so happy." Yeah, we did. That was before Sharon stopped laughing. I'm George Miller. I'm 41, own a garage in town, and I still believe in changing your own oil and answering the phone when your mom calls. I married Sharon when I was 33. She was 30, fresh off a job transfer from Ohio, where apparently every person is passive-aggressive and apologizes when you step on their foot. We met at a hardware store, of all places. I was looking for a replacement part for a busted lawnmower carburetor. She was trying to find wall anchors and arguing with the clerk about the weight limits of shelving. She had this sarcasm that was just sharp enough to slice you, but charming enough to make you want more. We ended up in the paint aisle, talking about eggshell versus satin, and by the time we hit checkout, I had her number on a receipt that I still keep in my toolbox. We married a year and a half later. Small wedding. Just us, our friends, some family. I wore a $300 suit that made me look like an assistant manager at Sears, and she wore a dress she got secondhand. And I swear to you, she looked like every dream I'd ever had, right down to the laugh lines. We were good. Not movie good, real good. We argued about bills, and whose turn it was to do the dishes, and whether or not we needed blackout curtains. We were a team, until we weren't. I don't have a dramatic turning point to offer you. No affair yet, no tragic accident. It was gradual, like watching someone fade in slow motion. First, she stopped singing along to music when we'd drive. Then the forehead kisses became cheek kisses. Then nothing. Eventually, I realized Sharon hadn't touched me, not really touched me, in over 3 months. It's weird, isn't it? How silence can be so loud. Now, before you start thinking I'm some clueless husband who didn't see the signs, let me assure you, I saw them. I just didn't want to admit what they meant. Sharon's a medical records analyst. She works at a private hospital about 20 minutes out. She's good at what she does, organized, reliable, obsessively punctual. And lately, she's been working late a lot. You know what that means. Except, I didn't want to know what that meant. I wanted to believe she was just under stress. That maybe menopause was early. That maybe she was going through something private and needed space. But let's be honest. That's just denial wearing khakis. She used to come home with stories about her coworkers, about patients she never named, but always gave quirky fake identities to, like Mr. Naps a lot, or the cat lady with 8 sons. Now, when I ask how her day was, she just shrugs and says fine, without looking up from her phone, which, by the way, is now permanently attached to her palm like some kind of growth. She used to leave it around the house like it was an afterthought. Now it follows her from room to room like a toddler with separation anxiety. So yeah, I started wondering. A lot. I didn't want to snoop. I think once you start snooping, you've already crossed some moral line you can't uncross. But I did start paying attention. Patterns. Habits. The way she only checks her texts when she thinks I'm not watching. The way she started wearing perfume to just go to the store. Still, I didn't say anything. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. When you think your spouse is cheating, you don't confront them right away. You hope you're wrong. You collect quiet evidence. You test little things. You invent scenarios in your head that could explain the weirdness without having to nuke your life. And me? I'm not the type to explode. I don't do dramatic confrontations or teary ultimatums. I do spreadsheets, mental checklists, timelines, the kind of planning you do when you're fixing a broken axle or building a deck. So when Sharon started leaving the house early to hit the gym, but came back looking exactly the same. No sweat, no towel, hair perfect. I started taking notes. I started marking times. I even installed a cheap app on the iPad that syncs with the garage door. No beeping, no alerts. Just quiet logs of when it opens and closes. Like a detective, except without the trench coat or the fedora. Just George from the garage, trying to figure out what the hell happened to his marriage. Then last week, Sharon came home humming. Humming. Like nothing was wrong. Like the last 6 months hadn't been filled with cold shoulders and dead conversations, and that weird, hollow feeling you get when someone you love treats you like a roommate who forgot to take out the trash. I watched her from the kitchen, that smile on her face as she stirred her tea. Yes, she actually made tea like it was a normal Thursday. And I realized that smile wasn't for me. That joy, whatever it was, had nothing to do with me. So now we're here. At the edge. I'm not going to ask her if she's cheating. That's not how this story plays out. Because I've got a better plan. And the way I find out what she's hiding? It won't be through her phone or by following her around like some amateur sleuth. It'll be smarter, cleaner. And when I do find out the truth, she'll never see it coming. It started with a printer jam. And no, I'm not being cute or trying to pull off a metaphor. I mean an actual, honest-to-God jammed printer in my home office. I'd been trying to print an invoice for a guy who owed me for a full brake system replacement, and the damn thing kept spitting out half-printed pages like it was having a nervous breakdown. So I pulled the tray out, smacked it a couple times, standard mail troubleshooting, then reached in to yank the stuck page. And there it was. Behind the jammed paper, wedged in the rollers, was something else entirely. A receipt. Not just any receipt, a printed confirmation email. One of those hotel-like reservation summaries, except it wasn't for a hotel. It was for a continuing education seminar. You know the type, multi-day event, fancy lanyards, name badges, buffet breakfast with eggs that taste like rubber, and the inevitable PowerPoint presentation that crashes halfway through. Except Sharon never mentioned any seminar. The email was from someone named C. Mathis, confirming her attendance for a 3-day advanced patient data workflow workshop in Baltimore. 3 days, starting last Tuesday. Funny thing is, she left the house each of those 3 days in her usual gray scrubs and came home at the exact time she normally did, with her usual tired face and vague stories about coworkers and flu season. No suitcase, no change in routine, nothing. At first, I thought maybe it was old. Maybe she forgot to tell me. Maybe it got printed at work and just ended up in our printer because our home network's as janky as the plumbing in our guest bathroom. But then I looked at the dates. Clear as daylight. This past week. And right there in the itinerary, a full daily schedule from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. followed by networking receptions each evening. The words were harmless enough, but they stared back at me like a loaded gun. I checked the line item that really caught my eye. Guest name submitted for on-site companion pass. G. Mathis. I don't know a G. Mathis. She sure as hell doesn't have a brother. No cousins named Mathis. No work friends she ever brought up with that last name. And I guarantee you one thing. She didn't ask me to go. I stood there holding the receipt, suddenly very aware of how quiet the house was. The kind of quiet that lets your thoughts scream. My mind started piecing together a timeline. She told me she had an internal training review this week and would be home late because they were testing new data compliance procedures. She said it with all the confidence of someone telling you the sky is blue. Turns out she was in Baltimore with G. Mathis. But here's where it gets weird. And I mean really weird. Instead of confronting her or going full amateur detective, I did what any man with too much time and a curious itch would do. I Googled the seminar. It existed. The venue was a bland conference center near the Inner Harbor. I clicked through the agenda, the sponsors, the keynote speakers. And then, right there on the photo gallery tab, it hit me like a punch to the gut. The pictures were already posted. Some marketing genius must have uploaded a live slideshow to show how engaged everyone was. All smiles, networking, coffee cups, laptops. Typical corporate zombie parade. And right there, in photo number 14, was Sharon. Hair down, glasses off, wearing a blazer I'd never seen before and holding a wine glass like she'd just won the lottery. Standing next to her was a man I had seen before. Dr. Curtis Mathis, the hospital's director of information systems. Middle-aged, doughy around the edges, always wore brown shoes with black slacks like he didn't understand color theory. I'd met him once at Sharon's holiday party 2 years ago. He shook my hand with fingers like wet linguine and smiled at Sharon a second too long. Gee, Mathis was Curtis's wife. Or rather, used to be. 5 clicks later, I found a court document on the Maryland Judiciary site. Curtis and Gloria Mathis, divorced 6 months ago. No kids. No alimony. Just a clean break. Gloria kept the condo. Curtis kept the Tesla. I stared at the screen, my pulse steady. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was a kind of cold clarity that I hadn't felt in months. That moment you realize the house isn't haunted. Someone just keeps sneaking in through the back door. She was seeing him. Curtis. Not a random coworker. Not a stranger. A man she worked under. A man who signs her evaluations. A man with a personal assistant and a laminated badge with executive access in gold. And the reason I know for a fact this isn't a coincidence? There was another picture. Picture 23. The networking dinner. Round tables. Everyone holding those fancy faux crystal water goblets. Sharon and Curtis were side by side, his hand on her chair back, her head tilted in that way she used to tilt it when we'd talk late into the night about where we'd retire someday. It was the same body language, the same intimacy, only it wasn't with me. Still, I didn't say a word. I waited until that night when she came home. She walked in, dropped her bag, and gave me the same exhausted sigh I'd been hearing all week. God, this week has been insane, she said, tossing her keys into the ceramic bowl by the door. We're piloting a new system, and it's a total mess. I'm going to take a quick shower. Sure, I said, not looking up from my laptop. Long week. You have no idea. Oh, Sharon, I really do. I let it play out like normal. Didn't change a thing. She went upstairs, showered, put on pajamas, and came back down to pretend to watch a rerun of Dateline while scrolling through her phone. And while she did all that, I emailed the pictures to myself. All of them, just in case she decided to delete them once she knew I'd found out. I knew she wouldn't confess. That's not Sharon's style. Sharon's the type who'll lie through 3 layers of evidence and still insist it was all a big misunderstanding. I wasn't going to ask for the truth. I was going to take it. That weekend, I stopped by the hospital under the pretense of dropping off lunch. I knew she wouldn't be working. It was Saturday. But I also knew Curtis would be. He runs the weekend data audits, and he's notorious for being too cheap to hire overtime help. I brought a bag of takeout and smiled like the world's dumbest golden retriever. Hey man, I said, walking into the server room like I belonged. Sharon left her scarf in my truck. I figured I'd swing by. He looked up, surprised. Oh, George, right? Yep, I said, setting the bag on the table. You hungry? Got an extra euro. He hesitated, then smiled. Well, sure. That's thoughtful of you. Yeah, I said, nodding. Thoughtfulness runs in the family. We made small talk for 5 minutes. I asked about his car, his job, even complimented his watch. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the gallery, and laid it on the table in front of him. He froze, stared at it, then slowly looked up. That from the conference? Yup, I said. You two make a cute couple. He cleared his throat. Look, George, I don't. Relax, I said, still smiling. I'm not here to fight. I just wanted to meet the guy who's been sleeping with my wife while I've been fixing strangers' trucks and pretending my marriage wasn't dying. Curtis turned pale. Like, ghost pale. I didn't know she was married. Not at first. Sure you didn't, I said. That's not the part that bothers me, though. What does then? I leaned in just slightly. You thought I wouldn't find out. He looked like he was going to throw up. I left after that. No threats. No yelling. Just a quiet goodbye and a pat on the back. The kind of exit that keeps people up at night. I went home, made dinner, and acted normal. Because this isn't about yelling matches or slamming doors. This is about precision. Strategy. She doesn't know I know. But she will. And when I reveal it, it's going to be unforgettable. There are only 2 times Sharon ever truly smiled anymore. When she was on her phone, and when she thought I wasn't paying attention. That second one stung more. Because it told me she still had joy. Just none of it had anything to do with me. I didn't lash out. I didn't drop the photos on the table like a gotcha moment. That stuff's for amateurs. I wanted something quieter. Something slower. Something she wouldn't even realize was happening until she was already halfway through it. It started small. I began asking her about work again. The training, the patience, the new software she said they were implementing. She looked relieved at first, probably assuming I was trying to reconnect. Like I was the one trying to fix the marriage. She even softened her tone a little. Brushed my arm when she walked past me in the kitchen. Her eyes held that flicker of old warmth. It was like watching an actress slip into a role she'd already mentally auditioned for. The misunderstood, overworked wife whose husband just finally started appreciating her again. Hey, I said one evening while she was rinsing dishes. I was thinking, we should go away for a weekend. Just us. Reset. She paused for half a second too long. Oh yeah? Yeah, I said, wiping down the counter. That and we went to in the Poconos. Remember the one with the old fireplace and the squeaky floorboards? She smiled. Too wide. That sounds amazing. But, things are kind of crazy at the hospital right now. I nodded. Right, yeah? Of course. Totally understand. The next day, I called the hospital. Not the general line. Curtis's extension. Information systems, Curtis speaking. Hey Curtis, I said, chipper as hell. It's George. Quick one. Sharon's out of shampoo, and she said she left some in her office locker. Mind if I swing by later today and grab it? He went silent for a beat. Her locker? Yeah. She said she was working late again tonight. Figured I'd help her out and bring it home. Unless she's not there. Still silence. I thought you knew, he finally said. She took the rest of the week off. Said there was a family emergency. Oh, I said, letting my tone drop like I was disappointed in myself. She must have forgotten to tell me. We exchanged a few more pleasantries before I hung up. So, Sharon was home, pretending to be at work, which meant I had a golden opportunity. That night, I waited until she got into bed, claiming she had a headache and needed to rest her eyes. I gave her a kiss on the forehead, because nothing messes with a liar like kindness, and told her I'd be downstairs catching up on paperwork. I wasn't. Instead, I went out to the garage and pulled down the old file boxes from the top shelf. Marriage paperwork, insurance, tax returns, wills. We'd been smart with our money, mostly because I'm the type of guy who thinks impulse buying a power drill counts as a wild day. I made copies of everything that had my name on it, then started a new folder labeled simply, Exit Strategy. I wasn't preparing for a blow-up. I was preparing for a handover. A clean, quiet disengagement. Like slipping out of a burning building before the flames reached your collar. The next morning, I made her pancakes. That's right, pancakes. From scratch. I even added chocolate chips, her favorite. You're in a good mood, she said, eyebrows raised. I shrugged. I don't know. I think I forgot how good it feels to take care of you. Her smile was cautious, like she was afraid the ceiling might fall in any second. After breakfast, she pretended to leave for work again. Same scrubs. Same goodbye kiss. I waited a full hour before I called her phone. It went to voicemail. So I called Curtis again. Hey man, I said, any update on Sharon's mom? She doing okay? Another pause. Yeah, I guess. She didn't mention what kind of emergency it was? No, just said she needed personal time. Got it. I spent the rest of the day setting the stage. I changed the locks on the storage unit we shared. Moved anything I valued, my grandfather's tools, my high school leather jacket, the wedding album, not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want her to. Then I called a locksmith to prep a rekeying job for our house. Scheduled it for the coming Monday. That evening, Sharon came home around 6:40 p.m. in the same clothes she left in, hair perfectly brushed, not a wrinkle in sight. How was work? I asked, flipping channels. She sighed. Long, boring. Chart audits all day. The glamorous life. She smiled, barely. I'm gonna shower. I waited until the water started running, then walked into the bedroom. Took her phone off the nightstand, not to snoop, but to verify a hunch. Sure enough, no hospital app alerts, no missed calls, no reminder notifications. She hadn't even opened her medical login software that entire day. I put the phone back, sat on the bed, and waited. When she came out wrapped in her towel, I looked up at her with the calmest expression I could muster. So how's Curtis? I asked. She froze. And that's when the color drained from her face. What? I said, how's Curtis? You know, your boss. The one who takes you to Baltimore conferences and puts his hand on your back in photo slideshows. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. What are you talking about? Don't, I said, standing up. Don't do the thing where you pretend I'm crazy, or accuse me of spying, or say I'm misinterpreting something innocent. Just don't. Not today. She swallowed hard. I was going to tell you. No, you weren't. You were going to ride this out until you got caught. And even then you were going to spin it like it was some moment of weakness or emotional connection thing. It wasn't like that. Of course it wasn't, I said. Because nothing is ever what it looks like with you. It's always a misunderstanding. A miscommunication. A misstep. Silence. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there dripping water onto the carpet like a ghost. I need time to think, she whispered. You've had time, I said. Months of it. I'm the one who needs time now. George, please. I'm not throwing you out. Yet. I'm not calling lawyers. Yet. But you need to be honest with yourself, if not with me. This isn't about what I did or didn't do. This is about what you chose to do, knowing full well what it would mean. She sank onto the edge of the bed, towel clutched around her like it was armor. I didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed. Actually laughed. You didn't mean to attend a 3-day conference with the guy? Didn't mean to put his name down for a guest pass. Didn't mean to sneak back home every day to pretend nothing happened. She looked away. I stepped closer. You made a choice, Sharon. Not once. Not twice. Over and over. And now I get to make mine. She looked up. Are you leaving me? I didn't answer. Because the truth is, the leaving part wasn't the question anymore. The question was how I'd make sure she never forgot what it felt like to be outplayed by the man she underestimated. The question was what came next. And trust me, it was going to be good. You don't ruin someone like Sharon by yelling or slamming a door. You ruin her by letting her smile for just a second longer than she should. Let her think she's still got control. Let her believe, for a little while, that the mess she made might still be cleanable. That George, sweet, dependable George, might just swallow the betrayal like he always swallowed her excuses. That's the key to real revenge. Don't take back your power. Make her hand it to you. After our little conversation, Sharon spent the next week walking around the house like she was auditioning for the role of dutiful wife in a sad indie film. She cooked dinner twice, folded my laundry, even asked about my day with genuine effort, though her timing was always off, like she was reading from some outdated marriage manual she found in a dentist's waiting room. But I smiled. I smiled every time. I acted tired but polite, engaged, but just distracted enough that she couldn't tell if she was winning me back or boring me. She couldn't read me anymore, and that's what broke her faster than any angry outburst ever could. But behind the smile? Oh, I was busy. First, I contacted Curtis. Not directly, of course. I sent an anonymous tip to the hospital's HR department. Told them a concerned employee had noticed a pattern of favoritism and possible ethical breaches involving personal relationships between senior staff and subordinates. I attached the photos from the conference, along with a polite little note about how it might be worth reviewing the travel expense forms submitted under Sharon's name. Hospitals hate scandals, but they hate lawsuits even more. Within 48 hours, there was an internal review. Sharon came home that Thursday like she'd been hit by a truck. They're auditing our travel, she said, wide-eyed. I don't know why. Everyone's freaked out. I nodded slowly, setting down my beer. Weird timing. They're asking for itemized receipts. And flight details. Like, it's just a seminar, you know. I looked right at her. Sure, just a seminar. She stared at me for a long time. I could see the question hanging behind her eyes. Did he do this? I didn't answer it. Not with words. I just smiled, the way someone does when they know something you don't. Next, I made a few changes to our bank accounts. Nothing illegal. Just smart. We'd always had a joint account for household expenses and 2 separate accounts for personal use. I started diverting my paycheck to mine and set all auto-pay bills to her card instead of mine. Quietly. Surgically. Like a financial ghost. Then I went for the heart. The garage. See, Sharon always told her friends she supported my shop. That she loved how I worked with my hands. What she really loved was the money. I handled repairs for half the town, and we brought in more than enough to support our lifestyle. But she never once asked how the business ran. That was her mistake. I started shifting clients to digital invoices and personal checks made out to me, not the shop. Changed the business address to a P.O. box in my name. Transferred the title of the building into a holding LLC I'd set up 2 years ago when we thought about expanding. By the time she noticed anything was different, I was the only one signing checks. She didn't see any of it coming. And that's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted. The final move? Her birthday. Sharon's birthday landed on a Saturday that year. She always made a big deal out of it. Brunch with friends, some kind of overpriced self-care, outing, and a dinner reservation that cost as much as a car battery. She expected a gift. Not just any gift, something thoughtful, sentimental. So I gave her exactly that. We sat down at her favorite sushi place. She still didn't know I hated sushi, by the way, and I handed her a wrapped box. She unwrapped it carefully, eyes lighting up like she thought I was finally breaking the silence with reconciliation. Inside the box, a printed spreadsheet, color-coded. What is this? She asked, laughing nervously. It's a breakdown, I said, of everything I paid for this year that supported your little affair. Flights, meals, seminar fees, even the dry cleaning you charged to our joint card. Her smile vanished. You're joking. Page 2. I said, sipping my water, is the cost of the house, which I now own in full, thanks to a quitclaim deed you signed 2 years ago when we refinanced. You know, When you didn't read the fine print. She reached for the papers like they were going to catch fire. Page 3 is just a little timeline. For me, mostly. So I could map out when you stopped wearing your wedding ring. And when you started taking showers at night instead of in the morning. She didn't say anything. The waitress came by and asked if we were ready to order. Sharon looked like she was going to throw up. I'll just have water, she mumbled. Oh, I said to the waitress. Make that 2 waters. We're not staying long. I stood up, pulled my jacket on, and left the box on the table. As I walked out, I said over my shoulder, Happy birthday, Sharon. She didn't follow me out. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't knock. She didn't even open her door. But I could hear her crying through the walls. Soft, sharp little exhales like a kid trying not to get caught being scared. By Monday, HR had requested formal interviews with both her and Curtis. Nothing confirmed, of course. But when your boss has to explain why he approved travel expenses for his assistant and then stayed in the same suite with her, well, that doesn't exactly scream innocent. The next week, I served her with paperwork. Not divorce papers, not yet. No, these were separation documents. The kind that made it clear she would be leaving the house, not me. That the utilities were now her responsibility. That the joint account would be closed and the mortgage refinanced in my name only. She read it all with trembling hands, seated across from me at the kitchen table. You're serious, she whispered. I was serious when I married you, I said. But that didn't seem to matter much. She looked up at me with watery eyes. George, I didn't mean to hurt you. That's the part that really pisses me off, I said. You didn't mean to hurt me. You just didn't care if you did. She didn't argue. I'll give you until Friday, I said, standing. Take what you need. Leave the rest. What am I supposed to tell people? I laughed. Try the truth for once. I left her there at the table with a pen and a pile of legal documents she probably wasn't ready to sign, but couldn't afford not to. And you know what? It felt incredible. Not because I wanted revenge. Not even because I was mad anymore. Because I was finally done carrying the weight of a woman who thought I'd never drop her. By Monday night, the air in our house had officially shifted. You know that feeling right before a storm hits? Where everything's still, but you can almost hear the sky holding its breath. That was our living room. Quiet. Still. Tense. Sharon didn't go to work again. She didn't say why. She just sat in the kitchen most of the day, pretending to scroll her phone like she was keeping up with news, when in reality, she was checking for fallout. Curtis hadn't called. Her coworkers hadn't texted. Whatever the hospital was doing behind the scenes, it was happening without her input. She was benched, sidelined, frozen out. I wasn't smug about it. I didn't gloat. But I wasn't sympathetic, either. This wasn't me taking some moral high ground. This was me watching the end of a story I'd already finished reading weeks ago. At 8:14 p.m., Sharon finally broke the silence. Can we talk? I was on the couch. I didn't look up from the baseball game. Sure, I said, nodding. Talk. She took the chair across from me. Not the cushion next to me. No, she knew better. She picked the chair. The formal one. Like we were 2 people in a waiting room who just happened to share a last name. I know you're angry, she said, voice shaky. And I deserve that. But I need to explain. I muted the game. You can explain. Doesn't mean I'm obligated to pretend it changes anything. She winced at that. Good. She took a breath. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That line's getting real old, Sharon. It started after the hospital's budget meetings in the spring. Curtis started talking to me more, asking about my input, treating me like I mattered. And at first, it felt nice. Just someone noticing I had ideas. I nodded slowly. Someone who wasn't your husband. Got it. She leaned forward. That's not fair, isn't it? You were bored. I get it. Happens to a lot of people. But most of them don't fake hospital shifts and sneak off to Baltimore with their boss. That's not getting noticed, Sharon. That's getting recruited. You weren't listening to me anymore, George. You'd come home, eat dinner, sit in front of the TV. Same conversation every night. How was your day? Work okay? What's for lunch tomorrow? You checked out. I looked her straight in the eye. And instead of saying something, you just replaced me. I didn't mean for that to happen. There it is again. She looked down at her hands. I didn't speak for a few seconds. I just let the silence sink in. Let her sit in it. She finally asked the one question I'd been expecting. Why didn't you confront me sooner? Why didn't you say anything when you found out? I leaned back in the couch, arms crossed. Because I wanted to see if you'd grow a spine. I wanted to see if, at any point, you'd tell me the truth. I gave you space, time, grace. And instead, you fed me more lies. You made eye contact with me every day while building a second life behind my back. That takes skill. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to lose comfort. Don't dress it up. She wiped a tear from her cheek. So what happens now? You mean, now that Curtis is under HR review and your credibility at work is shot? She flinched. I don't know, I said. What usually happens to people who try to live two lives at once? She looked at me, hopeful. Do you want to try counseling? I actually laughed. Out loud. You think this is a communication issue? Sharon, we didn't have a breakdown in dialogue. You cheated. And not just physically. You went behind my back, invented entire fake days, orchestrated stories. This isn't about therapy. This is about who you chose to be. Tears were falling steadily now. She didn't even try to hide them. I never wanted to lose you. Then you should have acted like it. She sat there, sobbing softly. I stood up, walked into the kitchen, grabbed the envelope I'd prepared earlier that day. Inside were 4 things. A divorce petition draft, already filled out with just the signature pending. A proposed asset split, clean, fair, even generous. A moving out timeline, 30 days, enough for her to figure out where she was going. A note that simply said, "You'll thank me later." I placed it on the coffee table in front of her. She didn't touch it. You've already decided, she said. Yep. So that's it. No, I said, picking up the remote again. That's just the beginning. She looked confused. So I clarified. This isn't about punishment. I'm not doing this to destroy you. I'm doing this to end you. End the version of you that could lie like that and still sleep through the night. End the version that thought love was a vending machine. You put in a few acts of domesticity and out comes loyalty. You don't get me anymore. Not my kindness, not my time, not my trust. I was lost, she said, almost pleading. You still are, I said, unmuting the game. But now you're going to have to find yourself without me. She stayed there for a while, just crying. Eventually, she went upstairs without saying another word. I didn't follow. Because when someone shows you who they are, and then keeps showing you, believe them. I already had. And I was done. There's this myth people cling to. That closure is some clean, graceful ending. A soft landing. Mutual understanding. 2 cups of coffee, 1 last hug. Maybe even a few tears and a thank you for the good times. But the truth is, real closure usually shows up late, with no apology and 0 interest in looking elegant. It shows up like mine did. On a Wednesday morning, with Sharon standing in the driveway, cardboard box in her hands, waiting for me to unlock the garage so she could grab the rest of her things. It had been 3 weeks since the final conversation. She stayed in the guest room during that time. We shared meals exactly once. Awkward Chinese takeout eaten in silence at opposite ends of the table. I think she thought I might change my mind. That I'd wake up one morning and miss the way she brewed coffee or left the TV on too loud. But I didn't miss anything. The truth was, I'd been living without her long before I found out she'd betrayed me. Her body was here, yeah, but the rest? Gone. So when I stepped outside that morning and saw her waiting, I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel anger. I just felt ready. Garage is open, I said, holding up the remote. The door rumbled upward, revealing the neat row of labeled bins I'd organized for her. One was labeled clothes. Another, books. The third, miscellaneous Sharon. She stared at that one for a few seconds longer than the others. Didn't know what to call the box of things you left scattered everywhere, I said. So that's what I went with. She nodded, forcing a half smile. Efficient as always. You used to love that about me. I did, she said, voice low. We didn't say much while she loaded her car. I stayed in the doorway, arms crossed, sipping coffee from the mug my sister gave me after Sharon's whole mess came to light. It read, "Trust, but verify." Pretty on the nose, huh? She closed the trunk, dusted her hands on her jeans, and turned to me. I'm staying at Emily's for a bit, she said. Her guest room. I nodded. Tell her I said thanks. It's good she's still willing to clean up after you. That one landed. I could see it in the way her shoulders dipped, just a bit. Are you really not going to talk to me after this? She asked. Ever. I'm talking to you now. You know what I mean. I put the mug down on the workbench. Sharon, you didn't just cheat. You built a second life with someone you could clock in and out of. You lied to me with a face so calm. I started thinking I was the crazy one. That's not something you recover from. I didn't think you'd take it this far. That's the thing, I said. You never thought I'd do anything. You thought I'd forgive, flinch, or beg. That's who I was to you, safe. Easy. She blinked fast. You were safe. Not anymore. A long pause. Then she said it. I wish I could undo it. I bet you do. But not because you regret it. You just regret getting caught. Her voice cracked. That's not true. Sure it is. If Curtis hadn't turned out to be a dead end, you'd still be writing the fantasy. You'd still be in my kitchen, half smiling over coffee while texting him from the bathroom. She looked away. I never wanted to hurt you. And yet, I said, you did. Repeatedly. And methodically. She leaned against the trunk of her car, looking out at the street like it might offer a detour from the truth. I don't even recognize myself anymore, she whispered. That makes two of us. She looked back at me, searching my face for some crack. Some hesitation. I thought maybe after some time apart, we could talk. Try to rebuild something. I shook my head. No rebuilding. That house burned. You lit the match, I watched it burn, and now I'm sweeping up the ashes. Alone. George. You don't get to call me that like it still means what it used to. She shut her mouth. Another long silence. Then, softly, are you seeing anyone? That made me laugh. You just finished packing your betrayal into a 2016 Honda. Let's not jump to chapter 12. I just meant, are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said, and I meant it. I sleep like a rock. I eat when I'm hungry. I listen to music without wondering if someone's lying beside me. Her eyes welled up. I'm sorry. I'm not, I said. Not anymore. She reached for the driver's side door, then paused. Can I hug you? I thought about that for a full 10 seconds. Then no. She nodded. Quiet. Then she got in, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway. Didn't look back. Didn't wave. Just drove away. I watched her go, then turned back toward the house that was finally mine again. No ghost of fake laughter in the kitchen. No two-faced smiles waiting on the staircase. Just the hum of silence. And peace. Over the next few weeks, the town buzzed with rumors. Curtis resigned from the hospital to pursue new opportunities. Sharon applied for a few temp jobs out of state, last I heard. Emily ran into me at the grocery store and said Sharon was still in a fog. I didn't ask for details. I went back to my shop, picked up a few bigger contracts, started teaching brake systems at the local trade school on Saturdays. My buddy Danny set me up on a double date. The woman was kind, funny, and knew more about carburetors than I did. That was new. I'm not in love again. Not yet. But I'm not bitter either. I'm free. And that's more than I ever thought I'd be. People like Sharon always underestimate guys like me. They think because we're quiet, we're weak. Because we don't yell, we don't notice. Because we forgive small things, we'll forgive everything. They never expect us to walk away. But we do. And when we do, we don't look back. We build something better. And we never let them in again. Not even a little. Not even to explain. Subscribe to the channel